PLU, which is an acronym for the Pan-African League Umoja in the UK. My name is Sonate Awansu, and I am the territorial coordinator for the PLU in the UK. So today we are here to talk about the relevance of why build a Pan-African state. So to talk about that topic, we have two keynote speakers, so which is Dr. Hamzat Boukari Yabara, who is standing on my right, and Dr. Kehinde Andrews, who is going to run a bit late, but he should be there shortly. Dr. Hamzat Boukari Yabara. Oh yes, I completely forgot to say that he's an historian. He's also an author. He wrote a book which led to be translated in English. But the book is Africa Unite, an history of Pan-Africanism. But at some point it will be available in English. I don't know when, but anyway, the book was published in 2014. Right.
Okay, thank you. So, good afternoon, greetings, brother and sister. My name is Hamzat Boukari Yabara. My mother is from West Indies. She's from Martinique. And my father is from Benin in West Africa. So I was born in Benin, I grew up in Benin, and I studied in several countries. And this is always a great pleasure to be in London, because I remember that 10 years ago, I was here in London. I was here for the Eric Huntley and Jessica Huntley conferences. And 10 years ago, it was about Walter Rodney, Marcus Garvey, and Rastafarian movements, looking back to Africa. And London is a very special place where I learned a lot about Pan-Africanism, because London is a very important place in the history of the Pan-African movement. And since 10 years, I traveled in several places. I spent time in British Guyana, because I did my research on Walter Rodney. I spent time in Tanzania, I spent time in Ghana, and so on. And today I'm in a different position. I am not anymore a student, I am not anymore a PhD candidate. I speak as the General Secretary of the Pan-African League Umoja. The Pan-African League Umoja is a political organization that was created 8 years ago. It was first the League of the Congo Umoja, the Pan-African League of the Congo Umoja, the small Congo. And in 2012 it became the Pan-African League Umoja, and it changed its orientation, its political orientation, and decided to open sections in the territories where some Africans are living, so everywhere on the African continent and everywhere where the African diaspora is living. And today we are here for our first event in London, in the UK. And Sonate, who introduced the event, is in charge of the UK section with Ted, who is over there with the laptop, filming on Facebook Live. And we have also Mauro, who is in charge of the registration. And behind the camera, you have Mr. Pierre Ebundi. Is a very important people, because he was a former president of the Pan-African League Umoja. He is a founding member of the Pan-African League Umoja. And Pan-African League Umoja was founded by a small number of people. There were 6 or 7 people. So you need to know that the number, the size of the attendance, the size of the people is not very important, because those who founded the Pan-African League Umoja were not more than you who are here today. This is very important. And today, the Pan-African League Umoja has more than 1,000 members in several countries, in Benin, in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Niger, in Senegal, in Congo, in Congo-Kinshasa, in France, in Switzerland, and so on. So this is a short introduction that should give you an idea of what we are going to talk about. The story of Pan-Africanism is a very important story. It is a political story, and it is also a social story. So here are just a few indications about what we are talking about, because when we speak of Pan-African, we need to clarify what is the issue, what is at stake. So here you can see that Pan-African is a combination of all the African elements that survive to deportation out of Africa, of African peoples. And it's also, I think, the birth of new African cultural groups which were born from former African nations. So African peoples were deported out of Africa during the transatlantic slave trade. And those people, their identities were crushed, and new identities emerged in the Americas. And this is something quite important, because today you have lots of Afro-descent people who are trying to search for their roots. They are making DNA tests to find where they are coming from, where their ancestors come from. And most of them, they don't want to be considered as Ghanaian, Nigerian, and so on. They want to be considered as Yoruba, Hausa, Akan, Ashanti, and so on. So the story of the African nation is the story of the Pan-African movement. Also very important is the break between culture and ethnicity. Pan-Africanism is tackling issues such as tribalism, clanism, ethnicity, regionalism, and this is so because during the transatlantic slave trade, all the African identities were merged into different identities. So the issue of identity is really important. Second point, it's a movement of solidarity and liberation of Africans in and out of Africa. So this is the long story of the struggle against slavery, colonialism, and apartheid. Third, it's a political doctrine of unification of African nation, especially in the time of decolonization. And at last, it is the history and geopolitics of the global African family. Global African family is about African at home on the continent and Africans abroad. And it is very important to understand that another point I need to make is about the timeline of Pan-Africanism. Here I took 3 different timelines. One is a classic historical timeline. This is what we are studying at school. That is, we have prehistory, antiquity, Middle Ages, modern history, and late modern period. That is a classical historical structure today. You have the colonial historical timeline, which says that Africa was discovered, and the notion of discovering Africa is really important because, of course, African discovers Africa before Europeans, but we are in a world where it seems that since something is not discovered by Europeans, it is not discovered. So we have to think about it. We knew of the Congo River, of the Niger, and so on, before the Europeans arrived in these places. But it is this discovery of Africa which led to consider African history as the history of Europeans in Africa, hence the colonial history, with the Berlin Conference in 1885, decolonization and post-colonial Africa since 1960s and now. The third historical timeline is the Pan-African timeline. It is a different conception of time and space. This timeline started with what we call initial history. That is the fact that humankind is born in Africa. Humankind was born in Africa. And it was born with African civilization which had no literate African languages. So the point of African languages is really important. We were considered out of history because our languages were not written languages, but they are languages. And initial history starts in Africa. Second point is about great ancient African civilization and stateless societies. And I insist on stateless societies. Why? Because the topic of the event is why build a Pan-African state. And the notion of the state is quite Eurocentric, but it's not absolutely Eurocentric because before states were created in the Western world, especially in Europe, there were political organizations in Africa. We can speak of Egypt, we can speak of Kush, Nubia, and so on. And stateless societies were very important because those societies were the ones who opposed the most important resistance to slavery. Why? Because there was no chief. And you know that when you have a state, once you got the chief, the state is coming down, is falling down. But when you have stateless societies, it is very difficult to corrupt the leader because there are no specific or identified leaders. So this notion of stateless society is really important. The next stage is what we call resistance to slavery in and out of Africa. The story of slave trade is not a story of desperation. It is a story of resistance. And Pan-Africanism was born in the resistance to slavery, especially with the Haitian Revolution in 1791. So the Haitian Revolution is the beginning of the Pan-African history. And I think this is really important to understand that this event is also a geographic shift in the vision of the world, because it is the first time that African peoples out of Africa are ruling a state. And from this time to now, they are still ruling Haiti, even if it's a country under foreign influences and domination. Africans in Haiti are still, juridically speaking, independent and sovereign. And you have to analyze the dates. 1804, that's the date of the independence of Haiti. And from this moment on, Africa is everywhere. And Africans struggle and organize everywhere Africa is. So this is the beginning of Pan-Africanism, which is not the story of ethnic or interracial relation, but the story of international relation. I think it is also quite important to note it. In 1885, with what we call the Conference of Berlin, Africa became France, Portugal, Belgium, and so on. So this is the moment where we start to speak of British Africa, French Africa, Portuguese Africa, Spanish Africa, and so on, with the idea that Africa is just an extension of Europe. And from 1960, with the so-called independence, Africa became entangled in continental boundaries. So you have a shift regarding geography and history, which is quite important to analyze, to work on the next point, which is here the basic stages, places and concept of Pan-African history. You can just have a look at the figure. What is really important to keep in mind is the fact that, first of all, deportation of Africans is still going on today. Enslavement of Africans is still going on today. And killing of Africans is still going on today. So the most important issues that gave birth to the Pan-African movements are still going on today. So the issue of Pan-Africanism is absolutely relevant today. So here you have the different elements: enslavement of millions of Africans, racialization of enslaved Africans, resistances, identification with Africa, Africa for the Africans, with this question: how do I belong as part of the African diaspora? How do I belong to Africa? And how do I possess Africa? So how long I am part of the African history. Also the fundamental notion of African Renaissance, which is very important in the making of the Pan-African movement. So all this issue gave birth to a series of reflection: conceptual, tactical, intellectual, philosophical, and practical reflection.